Where is he?
All right, good evening, everybody. Let's get started tonight. First item up is going to be Planning and Zoning Board, City of Lake City. Tonight is 3rd of January. All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Nelson.
Bow your heads, please. Lord, thank you for your grace and mercy. Thank you for allowing us to see another new year. Bless our deliberations this day. Give us wisdom to make sound recommendations. We ask for all these blessings in your name, Lord. Amen.
You may all be seated, Lord. Mr. Angelo, roll call of those present.
Ms. McCullum?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Mann?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Present.
And Mr. Leidig?
Present. All right, quorum being present, let's move forward. Earlier we had distributed to us the electronic transcripts of the meeting minutes from our December 5th meeting. I trust everyone's had the opportunity to look those over. Those would have been from our general session, not from our, not from the special session where we heard the appeal at City Council on, what was that, the 27th? So this would be the one at the beginning of the month. I trust everyone's had the opportunity to look those over. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those meeting minutes as electronically submitted? Hearing and seeing none, this time do we have a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt meeting minutes December 5th, 2023.
Carter and McCallum with the second. By hand vote?
Aye.
Aye. Hands down, likewise opposed. Meeting minutes are unanimously approved. We have no old business to circle back on, so let's jump right into new business in front of the Planning and Zoning Board. First petition of the evening, SPR 23-15, petition submitted by Jennifer Yarborough and Ron Crump, acting as agents for Citadel Holding Company, ILLC, owner, for a site plan review for Lake City Self-Storage in the Commercial Intensive Zoning District located on parcel 0584600, regulated by Land Development Regulations, City of Lake City, Section 4.13.
Make sure you see it, I'm sworn. You want me to do it?
Well, he's a city official. You have to swear him. I can swear
Oh, okay.
public, right?
Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. And you're gonna write down your own name and address with spelling, right?
I'll think about it.
Okay. Introduce it for us.
All right, so this is for Lake City Storage, their site plan review. It's SPR 23-15. We have already seen a rezoning for this property and a special exception to allow for the storage. And they are doing an addition to the existing facility there. This will all be indoor and a little bit better facilities than what's there right now. But it's just an addition of what they're doing. And they're going to use the existing ingress egress. They're going to use the existing one that's there, so it will not be another access point.
Any questions for Mr. Angelo? All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
All right, do we have either Ms. Yarborough or Mr. Crump acting on behalf of Citadel Holding?
Good evening, Board. Ron Crump.
We're not there yet. You swear the testimony you're about to give before the board this evening to the best of your knowledge and ability is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Ron Crump, CRUMP, and Continuo Group, and 755 Commerce Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. As mentioned, Mr. Angelo said, we are expanding the existing facility onto the vacant property that's adjacent between us and the existing cemetery land. It'll be a 18,000 square foot, single story, indoor climate controlled facility with a couple of dedicated parking spaces for it. That's going to be accessed from internal to the site, so we feel it makes a good addition to what is already there. And in all their market studies, they found indoor climate control was something that was needed and would be good for the community. I'm here if you have any questions.
I do
Thank
have
you.
one. By any chance, have you had to do any geophysical work out at the site? GPR, resistivity, conductivity, anything like that, just to see,
They are doing the sinkhole testing right now, actually.
I wasn't referring to sinkholes, I'm just saying it's kind of weird how your property bites into that marked cemetery the way it does.
Oh, so that was one of the things that was kind of discussed early on, but no GPR has been done to verify exact limits of those grave sites, I guess.
How far down are you digging?
Along that edge, not far at all, because we're giving an initial 10-foot buffer there, and then we've got a 30-foot dry aisle. So they're just doing the turn radius. So the foundations of the building are going to be 40 feet from the property line.
Copy that. Any other questions for the proponent from members of the board? All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against petition SPR 23-15 as presented? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion to close the public comment phase of this petition?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Carter and McMahon with the second, by hand vote?
Aye.
Aye, hands down, likewise opposed. All right, unanimously, public comment is now closed. Discussion amongst members of the board and city departments. Anything? No problems over at City Hall? And I'm sure an exhaustive search in our GIS file showed that cemetery never came past that property line?
Nothing I can find.
All righty. It's easier to find them before you accidentally exhume them.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no additional deliberations, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove motion SPR 23-15 as submitted by agent of proponent?
Motion to approve SPR 23-15.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Carter and a second by Ms. McCallum. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Mann,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
and Mr. Leidy.
Yay. Congratulations, you have unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next petition under new business, petition SPR 24-01, petition submitted by Brandon Stubbs, acting as agent for Real Terrace LLC, owner for a site plan review for Clear Sky in the Commercial Intensive Zoning District located on parcels 02579-002, 006, 008, 010, 012, and 013, regulated by Land Development Regulations, City of Lake City, Section 4.13.
You remain under oath, Mr. Angelo, for the record.
What he said.
All right, this is for Clear Sky, their site plan review. We just recently did a rezoning to clean up the zoning in that area from county zoning to city zoning. And they are looking to put a rehabilitation facility there, which is approved use in the commercial intensive area under 4.13.2 and 4.12.2.5. And at this time, the staff has no further comments at the time.
All right, do we have any questions for Mr. Angelo from members of the board? You may be seated.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, do we have a Mr. Stubbs that would care to come to the podium?
Yes,
Swear the testimony you're about to give before the board this evening, to the best of your knowledge and ability, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Brandon Stubbs, STUBBS. I'm with North Florida Professional Services. Our address is 1450 Southwest State Road 47, Lake City, Florida, 32025.
All right, what would you like to accomplish this evening?
This facility is approximately 42,535 square foot of a rehab facility. To give you a little bit idea of what I mean by rehab is, this isn't drug rehab, this isn't people coming in and out, this isn't like an outpatient facility. If someone's severely injured, they're in the hospital, but so let's say their hospital stay is done with and they have no reason to be medically in the hospital, but they can't go back home because they have need for extensive rehab. They come directly from the hospital to this facility. It's 36 beds initially. And so what they do is they take them, and within 14 days is a typical time of what it takes to rehabilitate a person from the hospital. Typically, normal rehab around here, because there is no facility like this within an hour drive. The facilities we have, they're not like this. You might have an hour of rehab per day if you go every day. So this facility, you spend a minimum of 4 hours a day straight in rehab. It's a very intensive program, but it works really good. They are going to employ roughly about 100 different individuals. These are high, physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, doctors, pretty good income and facility for this area. Again, there's nothing like it around here. I really feel like this is a great addition to our community and will help service this community. And I'd be happy to answer any questions this board has.
How many employees are you looking at?
Right, 100, 110. It's staffed 24/7, so between the nurses, the therapists, the maintenance, the cooks, everything. They provide all the meals in the house and everything else. So it'll be about, during the day, like daytime staffing will be about 70. It'll be produce probably about 40 or so at night.
And this is exclusively step down rehab from a more serious medical facility prior to discharge back to home care?
Correct. So patients don't actually drive there. They are admitted directly from the hospital. They are taken by ambulance from the hospital to this facility, and they do not leave that facility until they have completed their rehab.
And at present, some of the facilities we have in town that are seeing patients in this capacity are also serving as long-term rehab facilities. So in essence, we are freeing up additional capacity in some of our long-term rehab facilities with this proposed project.
You're absolutely right. I think, and I'm just speaking out of my experience, there's only really one, it's a nursing home that does long-term care, that does some rehab. Actually, I know because my grandmother was in that facility. There, yes, sir, that's it. So my grandma had spent some time, about 12 weeks in that facility due to a broke hip. So yeah, this would allow them to take on more patients that, they would do through long-term care versus having to deal with like the physical therapy aspect.
Hold on, I'm just trying to scroll to another series of views here. Okay, so. Okay, so the very long, thin portion of the property, that's gonna connect in at 90. And then the alternate entrance is going to be off of Real Terrace.
Yes, sir. So there's an existing,
And those are 2 lanes, both for the way in and for the way out. It's not just one way in, one way out.
Yes, sir,
Traffic.
that is correct. So the driveway that you see off of 90 is actually existing. So that serves the two existing businesses on either side of it. And so it comes in and splits off one, splits off the two. That, for our purposes, will only be utilized primarily for the trucks when they're driving off 90 to pull in there to go service. That way they don't have to go down Real Terrace or try to, they can come in directly into the deliveries bay in the back. It's not really anticipated that ambulances or anybody would come in. Again, there's not really anybody visiting this facility, it's just gonna be, staff. So it's anticipated most staff will enter off of Real Terrace.
Any other questions or comments for the proponent? You may be seated.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
This time, do we have anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against petition SPR 24-01 as submitted by Agent of Owner? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion to close public comment portion of this petition?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Carter and Nelson with the second, Mr. Angelo. By hand vote?
Aye.
Aye. Hands down. Likewise opposed. Public comment is unanimously closed at this time. Discussion amongst members of the board and city departments. Anything from the board? Nothing about this gives city heartburn? Sweet.
Sounds good.
Seeing and hearing no additional discussion from members of the board or city departments, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove petition SPR 24-01 as presented?
Motion to approve SPR 24-01 as presented.
Second.
That's Carter and McMahon with your second. Mr. Angelo, would you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Mann,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
and Mr. Leidick.
Yay. With unanimous approval, congratulations. Go forth, do good things. Next item on the agenda, we have a text amendment, LDR 24-01, which will be a text amendment to the Land Development Regulations, Section 13.11.3, to amend the text by deleting language stating no public notice and hearing required. Mr. Angelo, I hope you know you're still under oath.
Yes, sir. Alright, so this is to amend the text in the LDR in section 13.11.3. In there, it states that during the site plan review, the planning and zoning board shall handle such matters in a public session as part of a previously prepared agenda. However, no public notice or hearing is required. There is a public hearing and public notice is required. And then by state statute, this will help line us up better with state statute and not be in conflict with the LDR itself, because it kind of conflicts itself in that instance.
Any questions? All right. You got another one coming up. You can go ahead and take a seat out there if you want. I can't imagine why, but is there anyone present that would like to speak either for or against petition LDR 24-01? All right. There being no public comment at all, do we even have to close public comment?
Follow your script. and you're
All
done.
right, follow the script. Motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Carter and I think McMahon on the second, by hand vote?
Aye.
Aye, hands down, likewise opposed. All right, public comment is closed at this time. Any discussion amongst members of the board?
Just a small question of specifics here. It says, it shows here in our packet that the words that have been bold and cut through are going to be removed. That sentence previous would suddenly just end on the word however.
No, I noticed that when I was reading it just then, however, will be removed.
So we ended the agenda.
Correct.
That was the only thing I just noticed.
So by approving this, we are going to ensure that public notice is given for this process.
Hmm.
Correct.
which I think we have been doing for a while based off of state statute, but our local LDRs hadn't caught up with state statute.
It's in conflict with state statute.
So if anything, this is sort of a housekeeping thing, just making sure our
Sunshine.
language matches what we've actually been doing.
I'd like to make a motion to approve LDR 24-01, noting that the word however also needs to be stricken.
Second.
Mr. Carter and then Ms. McCellum with the second. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Rand,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
and Mr. Leidick.
Yay. Unanimous approval. All right, Mr. Angelo, come on back down. Our last item on our normal agenda is going to be LDR 24-02. This is also a text amendment to the Land Development Regulations, Section 12.4.1, to amend the text by adding a provision for noticing property owners within 300 feet of petitioned property.
All right, so this one is LDR 24-02. It's amending the text in section 12.4 of Land Development Regulations. But what we're doing is adding a provision in there, which is number F, and it says all property owners within 300 feet shall be notified by certified mail by the proponent, and proof of receipt of these notices be submitted as part of the application package submittal. The Growth Management Department shall supply the names and addresses of the property owners, the notification letters, and the envelopes to the proponent. The notices shall be sent to all property owners a minimum of 10 days prior to the meeting. And this is basically to help ensure that, property owners are properly noticed, and along with, the paper noticing that we do, the on-site, this will also make sure that the landowners around them know what's going on with the properties.
Now, this language, we've been doing this for planning atlas amendments and rezonings already, correct?
We have been doing a
This is
little
just
bit.
moving it into the world of site plan reviews also.
Site plan reviews, we have not been doing it for rezonings and other things. The only thing we were doing it for was the HPA, the historic applications. That was the only area that was actually used in. So we're taking it a step farther and bringing it to, making every one of them consistent. So no matter whether it's a special exception, variance, rezoning, text amendment, it's gonna all be that same way. And, that way it's consistent.
Mr. Chair, just a question for clarification and for anybody here listening at home. So a person in this position needs to come to Growth Management, and they'll be supplied by Growth Management with names, addresses, property owners, like a list, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And they'll be responsible for
Yeah, so basically the way to work in the department is we'll notify the applicant that this needs to be done. And then they can come in, we'll provide them with a letter that needs to be mailed out, the envelopes, and everything they need to mail it out with. And then we'll also give them a list of the property owners. That list will be pulled off of the Columbia County Property Appraiser. And that way it's very consistent and who's being addressed.
Gotcha. It's very handy.
Anything else from Mr. Angelo? All right, you may be seated. I think I know the answer to this, but is there anyone else in attendance that would like to speak either for or against petition LDR 24-02 as presented by City of Lake City? Surprise, surprise. All right, at this time, do we have a motion to close public comment portion of this petition?
Motion to close public comment.
Second.
Carter and McCellum with the second. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays. Or wait, I'm sorry, no, that was public comment, I'm getting ahead of myself. Public comment being closed, anything amongst members of the board? All right, do we have a motion for either approval or disapproval of LDR 24-02?
Move to approve LDR 24-02.
Second.
All right, that's McMahon and Carter on the second. Now, please call the yeas and the nays.
All right, Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Rand,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
Mr. Leidy.
Yay. Motion passes unanimously. LDR 24-02 is adopted. Do we have any workshop issues that we may want to discuss as part of planning and zoning at this time?
I have a question for our attorney. We've had some hot meetings the last several meetings, and there was some question earlier when this board met about whether if someone instigates a lawsuit against me personally for the way I voted on an issue, am I covered by you or by counsel, or am I responsible for my own attorney?
I'd have to look at that. Generally, there's two dichotomies. The city can undertake it, or there's a procedure, and I'm not sure which one this board would fall under, but there's another procedure by which you would retain counsel and, then you would be reimbursed. But I can double check that. There's the dichotomy. I just don't know off the top of my head which you would fall in.
Maybe we could talk about that by the February meeting,
We're gonna have to talk about it quick. He ain't gonna be here long.
whoever our counsel is. Thank you.
That being said, you wanna go ahead and let us know what your glide path timetable is? Will you be attending with us on some future meetings, or is this pretty much the last time we're?
Our notice was for 60 days, so it'll be this one and the next one, and not leaving anybody hanging if there's an issue.
Okay, so
we'll provide coverage.
you'll help shepherd us through the tough things we got coming up later this month.
This month, the Circle K issues will be handled by Scott Walker, the co-counsel at Gainesville.
Okay,
He is in charge of that whole proceeding.
okay, and has he had the chance to visit with us yet as part of our dealings?
I think they're gonna set that up, but, I don't know if Danielle Adams has attended one of these.
Danielle's been at one of these.
Danielle is a lawyer in his firm. So
Okay.
they're working on it together. Scott's just got the lead for the Circle K proceeding.
All right, and then, anything else we need to discuss under workshop for strictly planning and zoning issues? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn planning and zoning January 3rd?
Motion to adjourn.
Carter and Nelson with the second, by hand vote?
Aye.
Aye, hands down, likewise opposed? All right, planning and zoning stands adjourned for this evening. This time, I'd like to call to order Board of Adjustment, City of Lake City, January 3rd, 2024. Roll call shall remain the same. Electronically, meeting minutes of our 12/05/2023 meeting were distributed. I trust everyone's had the opportunity to look those over. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes as presented by the Department of Growth Management? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt meeting minutes 12/5/23.
Second.
Carter and McKellen with your second. By hand vote on approval of the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye, hands down, likewise opposed. Unanimously, we have approval of the meeting minutes. All right, seeing no old business, seeing no new business, do we have any workshop items we need to discuss as our role as the Board of Adjustment, City of Lake City? Anything from city departments or from council?
Listen,
All right, hearing and seeing none. At this time, do we have a motion to adjourn Board of Adjustment, City of Lake City, January 3?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Carter and McMahon with the second. By hand vote for adjournment? Aye. Hands down, likewise opposed? Very nice, unanimously, the Board of Adjustment, City of Lake City stands adjourned.
Huzzah.
Historic Preservation Agency, City of Lake City, January 3rd, 2024. Our roll call shall remain the same. Electronically, we were distributed copies of our meeting minutes from December 5th, 2023. I trust that everyone has had the opportunity to look those over. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions that need to be made to those minutes prior to their acceptance? Seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt meeting minutes 12/5/23.
Second.
Carter and McMahon with the second. By hand vote for approval of minutes. Aye. Hands down, likewise opposed. Unanimously, we have meeting minutes passed. All right, moving to old business, as this does involve a historic structure that I myself own, at this time I will recuse myself other than to administratively introduce this matter. This came before us as a consent agenda item. This is COA 23-34 submitted by myself, Christopher Leidick, as owner, requesting a certificate of appropriateness in a residential single-family 3 zoning district as established in section 4.5 land development regulations located within the viewshed of the Lake Isabella National Historic District, established in section 10.11.2 land development regulations on property described as Lake City Parcel 13799.
Mr. Leidick, before I forget, you'll need to contact Ms. Sykes. I believe it's a 15-day window to which, since you've announced your recusal based on receiving or potentially receiving a personal gain, you have a conflict of interest, which would require you, I believe, to fill out a Form 8
Another?
and find, unless you've already done it when it came.
Yeah, the very first time it came.
Out of abundance of caution, I would
Do another?
contact Ms. Sykes because it never got voted on. And so out of an abundance of caution for you,
Do I need, since this has now come before the board 3 or 4 separate times, do I need to do
no,
3
I
different
think
Form
you
8s
need to
and
do the
backdate
one
them
where
all?
it's actually voted on.
Okay,
You announced the recusal, no action was taken, so my advice would be you need to do one for tonight's meeting and have it, Ms. Sykes be able to file it within the minutes.
all right. Administratively, I can still conduct the parliamentary matters of this petition, or do I hand that over to my vice chair?
I would go ahead and hand it to the vice chair at this point now that it's been introduced.
You're up, bro.
Okey dokey, do we have a motion to untable? COA 23-34?
Move to untable COA 23-34.
Second.
Mr. Angelo, would you like to tell us about this?
Alright, so this was previously on the consent agenda for the November, agenda. And it is for the property address 238 Southeast Camp Street.
268,
268,
under
sorry.
the 268.
Yeah. It's COA 23-34, and they are repainting the metal tile roof, and that with back to the same color that is already up there that they repainted it back in 2011. No changes in the color.
And this has already been done, this is,
Correct.
okey dokey.
The form on page 1 says 238 Southeast Camp,
Yes.
Yeah.
but everything else I see is consistent with the correct address.
Okay,
So page 1 would need to be changed.
sure.
There's also a typo down in the
Food,
description. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's supposed to be roof.
Tile food.
Tile food.
Metal tile food.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was the only thing I was gonna mention on that, so thank you, Mr. Angelo.
Fine.
Anybody have, I'm sorry, does the board have any questions, Mr. Angelo?
No.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone here today in attendance who would like to speak for or against COA 23-34? All right, seeing and hearing none, do I have a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment?
Second.
All right, that is Nelson and McMahon with the second. Oh, okay, yes.
Call roll.
Okey dokey, I'm sorry, would you call roll or was it hand sign?
Normally a hand sign.
Yeah. Okay, hand sign, if agreed, aye?
And just so the record will reflect it, we do a tally on the motion to untable. I know we had a first and a second.
I don't think we did.
So out of abundance of caution, then going back to that, what would be the hand vote on the motion to untable that was made and seconded?
Okay. Hand vote for the motion to untable. All in agreement? Aye? Like sign? There we go. Okey dokey. All right, so we are back to, okay, discussion amongst the board. All right. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve or disapprove COA 23-34?
Motion to approve COA 23-34 with the 2 minor changes as noted. The address and the typo in the description.
Second.
Second, there's a motion and second, McMahon and Nelson. Okey dokey, Mr. Angelo, would you please call the roll?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Mann,
Yes.
and Mr. Carter.
Yay. Okay. With that out of the way, I'd like to relinquish, running the meeting back to Chris.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is not easy maintaining those stamped tin tiles on the top of a 120-year-old structure.
Or painting the food up there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
putting the food up there, that's the hardest part. But you can only see that from the helicopter.
Well,
Exactly. All right, having no new business before the board at this time, and we will get to our emergency petition after our regular order business, correct? Okay. Seeing no advertised new business at this time, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of 3 separate petitions for minor or maintenance-related work. Mr. Angelo, one at a time, would you please explain to us these 3 petitions and how they count as minor or maintenance-related projects, and then we'll have some questions and we'll probably ratify them.
Alright, so the first one is COA 24-01, and then for 426 East Duval Street. It's a single-story building, and they are looking to replace the existing brown shingles with new brown shingles. So an apples to apples comparison on the color and everything.
Any questions on that one? All right, moving on to the second one.
Alright, second one is COA 24-02 for 500 North Marion. A single-story building on there also. They're looking to replace the existing roof with a 50 mil PVC roof system. And it is down in the, behind the wall, so you won't see the roof, and it'll be, won't even be noticed up there.
And this is applying new membrane over the old membrane or removing existing membrane?
Removing the existing membrane and putting new membrane down.
Okay, but all of this is shielded behind historic masonry parapets?
Correct.
So there's no appreciable visible change to the casual observer at ground level?
Correct.
Okay. Any additional questions on COA 24-02?
None.
All right, moving along.
Alright, so the next one is COA 24-03, and it is for 436 Southeast St. John Street. They're looking to replace the existing roof, which has some different types of roofing up there. It has shingles, they have some galvalume up there already, and then wanting to replace it with a metal galvalume Ultra Rib 26 gauge. And they are gonna be leaving the chimneys. They wanted to take chimneys down, but we told them if it's gonna be on the consent agenda, they had to leave the chimneys in place and work around them.
And this one they've actually already completed. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to drive by this one. But the panel product that they put on to replace the existing panel product, given the number of angles and hips that were in this roof, this came out really, really good. Even though it's only at the margins of the district.
St. John Street is kind of hot right now. There's
Oh, yeah.
houses for sale being flipped. It's good to see that.
But this was a very technical re-roof, and the fact that they were able to find a panel product that, roughly matched the existing historic panel product that was up there was very good. Any additional questions on petition COA 24-03? All right, at this time, do we have a collective motion to ratify the consent agenda as presented to us by the representative of the Department of Growth Management?
I'd like to make a motion to ratify the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Carter and McMahon on the second. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Mann,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
and Mr. Leidig.
Yay. All right, our consent agenda passes. At this time, our ordinary as published agenda ends. However, I do understand we have an emergency petition to hear in regards to a individually listed historic property that is not part of any of the historic districts here in town. Do we have a petition number on this? David, would you like?
This time.
Not having a petition number, how do we enter it into the evidentiary record as a quasi-judicial proceeding, and who introduces it?
I will introduce it.
Come on down.
The next number in line would be COA 24-06.
Are we in a position to assign that this evening?
You want to assign that one to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for the record, we're calling this COA 24-06. And this has not been advertised, this has not been noticed.
Correct.
No.
All right, at this time, not having anything to read into the record, we're building this airplane while we fly it, Mr. Young, so
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna yield the floor to you. Mr. Kennan will oath you as a representative of the city, and then we will try to move forward without violating any of our rules.
solemnly swear the testimony you give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. Okay, this is located, I believe the address is 202 West Duval, which is one of the reasons that through us, we issued a permit for the roof, not understanding that that was the historic building next to Burger King. Because West Duval is supposed to start on the other side, not on this side. And anyway, it caught us by surprise. We did not realize it until we received a call saying that there was roof work being done on that building. We immediately stopped it. I talked to the roofing company. I allowed them to put the water barrier down over the roof they've exposed, so they would not have water damage occur. I've asked them to, they call me because I told them our next agenda meeting or next scheduled meeting would be February. They asked if there was any way they could get before this committee, and I said, well, I can present it as an emergency, but it would be up to the Historic Preservation Agency to make any determinations. So we have the owner.
Yes. And the roofing company is here as well somewhere.
Yeah, I just looked back, well, where he ran away. And the roofing company here. So they can present to you what and why it's going on. And any questions for me?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Young, I just curious about, because we just discussed this a minute ago, with the addendum as far as notifying, do all of those things now apply to this as if it were in the Historic Preservation District, or do separate island historic
If you
buildings?
read the Historic Preservation, Chapter 10 in our book, it does cover individual historic buildings.
Okay.
So yes, they would apply.
Generally speaking, a individually listed structure is held to a higher standard than an enclave of structures that has been determined to geographically represent a looser historic district.
Okay.
Like, for example, the Blanche is individually listed, the old high school building, now the school board, is individually listed. This particular structure is individually listed. When a structure rises to a level above that of a district, it can be individually listed. And in general, there's a stronger adherence to the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines as to what is and is not a recommended treatment. We can do quite a bit of horse trading when it comes to a property in a district that is merely a contributing member of that district. Like Mr. Young experienced when we were redoing the Blanche, there's a lot of There's a lot of shall that goes into an individually listed structure.
Okay, another question, in effect, would the property lines of this specific location then be its,
It's parcel, yes.
its parcel, and therefore would, that, for instance, Burger King is not in the Historic Preservation District, would they still be required to mail, or is there no one to mail to, because it's just them? Like that sort of stuff?
Everything within, 300
300
physical
feet.
feet of the parcel would have to receive notice that this change was being proposed.
Okay, so my question then, I guess, is is there anything that we can legally do without this being noticed?
Well, we can hear the petitioner and we can explain next steps. Given that only certain things have occurred up to this point, there is still the opportunity for them to come into compliance with historic preservation law. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kennan, but given that this was not advertised and not noticed, it would not be your recommendation for us to take quasi-judicial action on this evening.
Correct, and it would take an investigation of, I believe, Article 10 has the specific chapter on dealing with defining a distinctive historic building. We talked about
Yes, sir.
the other day. And so we would have to look at both what LDR requirements are for rehabilitating, et cetera, for a already distinct marked building as historical, together with the interior guidelines. But it does, I see no prohibition against seeing what the issues are, what the conditions are, and that may lead the board to special meeting or something to that effect, depending on, because if you let it sit too long, potentially where it's at.
Oh, I get it. I just fixed my tin shingles on the roof of my structure.
Yeah,
I know.
then you're gonna potentially have interior issues that we don't have now.
Right.
As this board is having 2 special meetings convened later in this month, Mr. Young, we're meeting the 10th and the 17th, or the 17th and the 24th?
10th and 17th.
10th and 17th.
10th and 17th.
Is there enough time to get notice made to get them on our agenda, put HPA in front of our 90-minute planning and zoning meeting, where we're gonna be talking about the Circle K issues, and see if we can get them what they're looking for, if they can come in compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards?
So it'd probably be the 17th, given the
Yeah.
10 days, and given the idea that the 17th is a bleed over meeting date.
Yes.
It may be if we put it on that date, we know we're coming, if nothing else but for that. But if I had to guess, you're probably gonna be here on the 17th as some of the bleed over from the 10th. And so I don't think time frame, since that's your second meeting for the one particular issue, if you tack this on at the beginning, that will help the property owner, help preservation of the property, and can be dealt with first. And go from there. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay.
If city staff's okay, if they can pull that off.
You guys think if the proponents are willing to work with you and the agent of proponent is willing to work with you, and we can get something that mirrors the recommended versus non-recommended treatments from the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitating historic structures, can we move heaven and earth and get them on for the 17th, you think?
Yes,
Or is
sir.
that asking too much of you guys?
We've been known to jump through hoops before.
Yeah, but I don't like making you jump through hoops. That's other people that make you jump through hoops.
Yeah, but when it comes to the citizens of the city, we're gonna jump through hoops.
All right. So in that case, let's hold off on making any motions to either approve or disapprove. But let's hear out the proponent, the agent for proponent. Let's discuss a little bit about Secretary of the Interior standards and potential options for one of the keystone historic structures remaining in the city of Lake City. And again, we're building the airplane while we're flying it. Thank you, Mr. Young. Who wants to speak first?
I can go ahead.
All right,
Swear
come on.
me in, Mr. Kennan?
No, that'd be me.
No? Okay.
All right, do you swear the testimony you're about to give before the board this evening to the best of your knowledge and ability is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, sir.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record
Yes,
for Mr. Angelo.
Gail Boudreau, last name spelled B as in boy, O-U, D-R-E-A-U. First name Gail is spelled G-A-Y-L-E. And my place of business is the address of concern, the 202 West Duval Street, Lake City 32055. And I just wanted to let the council know that I just recently purchased the property from Burger King, had been renting it as a law firm there. We've had quite a few issues with leaking, a lot of roof issues. Obviously, the landlord, they purchased the building so that they could demolish the Burger King, put up a new Burger King. They don't really want to put.
You should have seen what they tore down to build the Burger King.
The original Burger King, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was probably beautiful old homes. So I recently purchased the building. I just grabbed this out of the dumpster. The roof that's on there is the original metal roof, well over 100 years old. It is completely rotted out. The prior owners have tried putting sealants over it to extend the life, which is what this gray stuff is. It's not paint, it's just sealant. So you can see why we're having problems with leaking. So right away, even before purchasing the building, I looked into re-roofing it because we don't want to have the interior damage, obviously. Ryan and his company, Energy Roofing, I ended up contracting with them right about the time that I purchased the building, because that was all part of the purchase decision. Burger King, being the previous owners, they're well aware that a roof needed to go on it. They didn't want to put in the investment, so they gave me a pretty good deal on the purchase price, knowing that we had to get the roof on. So yesterday, once they started work out there, was the first I realized that there were some extra hoops that had to be jumped through in addition to getting the proper permitting, which they did do. So we're kind of just at a point where we need to go ahead and finish up the roof once we get the proper approvals. As you can see, the original roof is just a straight metal, no coloring to it, and that's exactly what I've contracted to put on. It's just a straight Galvalume, standing seam, no paint whatsoever, trying to match it as close as possible to what would have been originally on that building. And I don't know what other questions you might have for me, and I may have to defer some to.
So you're saying that it currently has a panel type product and not individually stamped tin tiles and tin shingles on it?
This here is the peak, and then these are the individual shingles that are on it.
Individually stamped tin tiles.
Yep, and again, you can see pretty well rusted. They put the same coating on, trying to maintain some sort of integrity, but it's at the point where it just needs to be replaced. So that's where we're at, but I'm happy to answer any questions I can, and have Brian perhaps answer the questions that I can't answer.
Do we have any questions for the owner before we speak with the agent of owner?
What year was the house built?
Early 1900s, I don't know offhand, but I'm thinking around 1910.
Okay.
So it's, well over 100-year-old roof. I'm amazed that it's lasted as well as it has. But we are having leaking, and it is coming through, especially into the second.
But the whole thing is gonna be Galvalume, the whole thing will be the same? Okay.
Everything,
So
yes.
no defining historic elements of that structure are savable.
As far as the metal itself, unfortunately not. Brian can speak more of it, they've gotten down, they pulled off these pieces, and the wood underneath, I've seen some where there's actual holes there, I don't know if there's rotting as well. They will have to just replace whatever wood's damaged, but other than that, we won't be changing any of the structure as far as the way the roof is set up, won't be touching any of the chimneys are beautiful. I want this maintained in as much of the original condition as absolutely possible.
Any other questions for owner?
Just double checking, Mr. Chair, because you had gotten the permit and had begun, I'm assuming that you've already purchased the roofing that you intended to put on there?
I personally didn't get the permit, the roofing company did, and I don't know that they've actually, I don't know where they are in the purchase process. I know it's being purchased from Tri-County Metals, which is right here locally, but that would be more of a question on their end as far as, where they are with purchasing. Cause I know they're ready to install, so I'm sure they're within a day or two of that.
Gotcha.
Anything else for owner? All right, you may be seated. Step up, young man. Swear the testimony you're about to give before the board this evening, to the best of your knowledge and ability, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Ryan Jones, RyanJones. And what was the other?
The address.
418 Southwest Wall Terrace, Lake City, Florida. So when Gail reached out to us, we did think about coating the roof, and it has just deteriorated past the point of us being able to do so. So we did the Blanche Hotel Energy Roofing we installed the flat, we installed the Galvalume, similar product. We're putting the exact same roof. It's gonna be a Galvalume standing seam roof on it. We pulled the permit, we didn't know we were gonna have any problems, we thought it was maintenance, right? So we haven't ordered the roof. Luckily, we're in that position where we haven't ordered the roof, but we don't wanna put these metal shingles back on it. It's a very high-end roof she's putting on there. It's not like she's going back with like a Galvalume exposed fastener roof. She is going back with a really high-end metal roof. It's gonna be Galvalume. And I know we got it approved at the Blanche to do so. So we're really hoping to be able to move forward. We have tore off a large section of that building. And so we've dried it in. We're nervous though. Because we have been getting hard rains during this winter. So I know that I just can't, approve it. I don't know, what this is gonna look like, but we are wanting to get the roof put on this building as soon as we can.
Any questions for agent? Okay. The fact you worked with the Blanche? Very
Yes,
good. So
we pulled the permit and everything on the Blanche. I mean, I installed a lot of it. I was there. I've been with the company for 10 years. So, yeah, that one, we've done a number of roofs here downtown. I just contracted on another one in your historic district that we cleared permit on. It was no issue. 3, I've had 3, all have cleared permit. We just did the motorcycle shop about a mile east on 90. We just put a shingle roof on it, cleared permit, it wasn't a problem, it passed. Same thing with the building downtown, it's just an old abandoned building, but it cleared permit, passed. So we were just shocked when we found this out, we obviously didn't realize it was on a national registry. So we've learned a lot, right? It'll be a learning thing for us.
I know it's easy to say it's all bad, but given how many different roof surfaces there are on that structure, even some that are just small ones over little bays that come out. One thing I'm thinking about is in our land development regulations in Article 10.11.8, Part 2, the historic character of the property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alterations of features and spaces that characterize the property shall be avoided. Moving to subpart 6. Where possible, deteriorated historic features to be rehabilitated shall be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, material. I understand you're planning on using a fairly high-end metallic on this, which is great.
Yes, sir.
Not having to see the little screw caps, that's great.
I've got a sample too if you need to see it.
That'll probably come at our next meeting.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is just informational right now, so we're
Yes,
all in the same boat. Like our barrister said,
Yes, sir.
we're just feeling it all out so we know where we're getting into.
Okay.
Because the vast majority of the roofing of the Blanche is only visible from its rear portion.
Yes,
And
sir.
most of it is screened by a historic masonry parapet, kind of like the vacant one up at 501 Marion, where the membrane went on.
Yes, sir.
You have a lot more options on that one. This roof is 100% exposed on all four sides. It is seen by everyone. So I ask you again, are you 100% sure that every single scrap of that tin tile has to come off? Or are there certain porches or, window bays where it may be able to be retained as a original historic element and fabric of that structure?
Like some of the dormer areas.
Quite possibly.
Here is, you don't have a
Because
section.
obviously the large pyramid at the center of the structure
Yes,
is
sir.
probably what you're most concerned about.
Yeah, no, and it's
And if we were to play a little bit of give and take, are there certain places where this historically defining characteristic can come into compliance with where it says shall be repaired rather than replaced? Are there certain places we can keep it if that big pyramid in the center of the structure is replaced?
But, and look at the word shall, we talked about that earlier. It's all a matter of reason. If your only expert testimony is that a product cannot be replaced, to match identically or within some reasonable degree of identity, then shall has some reasonableness to it. It doesn't mean you have to replace it with stamped tiles.
No, those things are like $3 a piece. I tried pricing them out for my place.
Yeah.
So as you heard, I
It's
just
a
did
matter
it.
of degree, and if the roofing company being the only expert testimony before the board, then the board has to weigh that when it looks at the word shall, is because where possible if materials are available, there's wiggle room within those LDRs.
So it would be interesting, could you leave pieces of it? None of that roof terminates anywhere, meaning it all terminates to the next roof plane. So it's all, they're all gonna meet at a valley, right? So you have to get your new valley metal in there. This side is flashed properly. Now, how do you hem this and get it in? It would be a real challenge, and it's the manufacturer warranty from the get-go would be void. We actually did a project like that on McFarland and Bascom Norris where they meet. There's a church, old white church, and we put a new standing seam on like the long gable section and met it up to it. But it had like an old standing seam on it where we could hem it and get it locked properly, where we could ensure it could flash it. It'd be a challenge.
If they hadn't put sealant on it, would they be savable, do you think?
They'd have called it earlier. They put a bunch of sealant all over like a log of rust. So if they'd have got it
The
earlier,
problem is the sealant exacerbates the rusting.
yeah, they didn't prime
Right,
it.
so if they hadn't done that, they may have been able to save the tin plates 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, they'd acted a while ago, definitely, because you lock in that rust. If you don't kill that rust and treat that rust, and you just cover over it, you just paint it over it, it's coming back. And that's what she's dealing with. Because we wanted to coat it, that was our.
That was originally, I just wanted to have it coated again.
Yeah, because it's difficult to get to, it's really steep and all, water comes shooting off of that thing, so it's,
Believe me, I didn't want to invest in putting on a whole new standing seam roof. It's an expensive undertaking, and it would have been cheaper to just do, shingles, asphalt shingles, but I do want to maintain it as much as the original,
Right.
intended look.
yeah, it was a substantially more to go with that versus shingles.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. In the past, we've had, obviously I understand there's a slight difference between a specific spot and the district, but in the past, we've had a precedent set that the galvalume, the ribbed galvalume, that is kind of becoming the replacement of choice that's most accurate to the historic, and so I'm wondering, for the sake of, we've all seen it, a quarter of that roof is off now, and it's exposed to the elements. if we were to determine here that that was an acceptable replacement, is this the sort of thing that could then be a consent agenda like the other 3 roofs we saw today?
No, because just by the nature of what it is, just by the nature of what it is, it would be replacing a roof with a different material which automatically triggers major work. And that would be under 10.11.6, Part 12, replacement of architectural details where there will be a change in design or materials from the original or existing details. So that automatically triggers a major. So at bare minimum, we're looking at having to do the 300 feet notification. Is it dried in well enough that it's gonna last until the 17th?
Well, yeah, we'll do some more to it. We'll get the building secure.
Because
Yeah,
at this point, it didn't even have a petition number until it came to us. It has not been noticed. And kind of like Mr. McMahon said, hey, are we covered if we get sued? At this point, I'm not wanting to go against the LDRs. If it says it needs to go out for notice, then it needs to go out for notice.
Okay.
And we've seen what happens when angry citizens come up here telling us we haven't properly noticed something.
So it sounds like we need to get it on the agenda for the 17th.
Uh,
I think if staff can accommodate that, then what you've done also is you save time on the 17th. A lot of that you can adopt what was put in the record in the minutes tonight. I would bring back your samples,
yes, sir.
and maybe you bring a sample
Okay.
of what you're wanting to put on. I know we've had some visual things where people are able to take a picture of the roof and then overplant
Yeah,
the new material.
yeah,
That might be very helpful to show how it would be then consistent.
Yeah.
So maybe a before and after would help, but again, we saved time tonight by getting this far
Yeah.
and understanding the roofing details.
And as you start filling out the package for major project work on an individually listed historic structure, you'll see everything it's asking for.
okay,
Even though we may have put you through the ringer a little bit tonight. We're not Savannah, we're not Charleston, we're not St. Augustine. We're
yeah,
not gonna tell you every last little fastener you need to use.
yeah,
However, since the metal has not been yet purchased, if there are some creative and interesting ways that you can come into more compliance with 10.11.8.2 and 10.11.8.6,
okay,
such as, obviously maybe not every single tile on that building's bad, and some of those just single bay windows that come out, or some of the little addition porches that have been put on the property over the years. If you can salvage some of the historic material that does not directly tie into your warranty product, meeting us halfway looks an awful lot better.
okay, yeah, we'll look into that.
So get creative, put your thinking hats on. We want to work with you. This is obviously an iconic structure in downtown Lake City. There are not many like this old girl left. Matter of fact, I think it's the oldest surviving masonry residential structure still in historic downtown. So that being said, do we have a motion to, Mr. Andrews?
Just for clarity too, I know we're planning on the 17th, but what kind of lead time are you looking to get the product in this? So if we meet on the 17th, will you be ordering the material like that if it's approved, or how long or after that? So that way we know kind of what time frame you got.
Materials will, like 3 days. I'll try counting three business days at the most.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's not gonna be like a 30-day.
No, sir. No, sir. They'll turn it around pretty fast for us. Should be able to.
All right, so at this time, we need to call for a motion of continuance. Is that correct, Mr. Cameron?
Yeah, you can do a motion to table because we now have a number in the record. And we're tabling it to make sure that notice is complied with.
All right, at this time, is there any additional questions, comments, anything from city departments, from members of the board, or from those gathered in attendance on emergency petition COA 24-06? Hearing and seeing none, do we have a motion to table emergency COA 24-06 until the earliest possible time of reschedulement, which would be the 17th?
Motion to table, emergency COA 24-06 until the earliest possible time, which in this case is the 17th.
Second.
All right, that's Carter and McMahon with the second. Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. McMahon,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yay.
and Mr. Leidick,
Yay.
and Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
All right, we will see you in a few days. Hopefully you'll have a proposal put together. You'll have your little certified letter tags. We'll have all the legal hoodoo tied up. And we'll be ready to talk about trying to save that old bird.
Is there a checklist that like we'll be able to find that?
The application you're gonna get from the Department of Growth Management.
That application we sent over to your office.
Yes, sir, okay, yes, that's what she was working on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it out.
Is that?
And I'll provide you with
Alright,
And then additionally, in Land Development Regulations, 10.11, the Certificate of Appropriateness section.
Available online.
okay.
You'll find pretty much a legal checklist of everything you'll need to go through.
Big city website.
All right, at this time, do we have any workshop questions that we want to discuss, either from the board or from city departments?
LDR chapter 10.
All right, hearing and seeing none.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second from Mr. McMahon. All in favor of adjournment by hand sign? Aye. Hands down, likewise opposed. We stand adjourned.
Huzzah.
Cut the audio and the video, please.